Imagine it's Sunday morning and you wake up feeling your best because you chose to have a mocktail instead of a cocktail. I'm going to show you how to put together some wonderful craft mocktails that aren't going to make you feel like you missed out on anything, that come together super easily with ingredients you can get your hands on at most grocery stores, and that take just a minute or two. We're going to perform a little mocktail magic. When you run out of ideas for what to do, nothing beats a little bit of club soda and some citrus. Citrus is such a fresh element. It's not something we get a lot in our day-to-day cooking, especially like eating out. So when you add those fresh elements, it's really going to make you feel like you have something special. So I started with a fun, fancy glass. I got a lime here I had in the fridge, like leftover from some tacos. I got a orange here. Citrus is usually pretty affordable and lasts a long time to kind of keep it on hand at your house in your fridge. So I'm just going to give that a good old squeeze. And I'm going to add a touch of lemon juice because I want to kind of create a nice little trio there. You could definitely do this with just lime juice, just lemon juice, just orange juice, or just the bottle. You don't have to have the fresh stuff. We're going to add some club soda for the fizz, lack of fizz. And here's where the magic comes in. We're going to take a straw. Straws are fun. This is kind of golden glittery. And I'm going to take a fun little cocktail napkin. And here I have a fun, fresh drink that took me literally 30 seconds that you can make with things that you have on hand. You want to throw a little umbrella in it. Maybe if you put this in a wine glass, you have a wine charm. So how we garnish our drinks can be one of the things that makes them feel special to us. That is packed with flavor. If you're a sweet person, I'm not. I don't drink a ton of sugar. You could add some honey or agave to this to really kind of round it out. But that is your super simple weeknight, weekend mocktail. You serve that to anybody at a party, they're going to be like, OMG, can you believe the drinks they served us? So napkins and straws and things like that are a fun way to really drive home a theme. All right, welcome. This afternoon, we are going to talk about next level mocktails that you can make at home. So I'm going to be demoing how to make these delicious mocktails. I had to invite some friends so I couldn't let them go to waste. So will you introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Sarah.
Hi, I'm April.
Awesome. So these are some of my friends that live here locally, get to hang out with me. So today, our first mocktail that we're going to be demoing is a kombucha and bubbly. And I have made this for different events over the time. It can look different, kind of like depending on what ingredients you use, but I'll kind of tell you the fundamentals. So I like a big mason jar because our garnish is going to take up a little bit of space. So we're going to start with a mason jar. And then today, I also I washed my hands, I promise. I made some fun ice cubes, but I colored them with a little bit of some orange beet juice that I had laying around. So it was like less than a teaspoon, and we have a fun color giant ice cube to put in there. So that's a good start. Do you guys use the big ice cubes at home?
No, but I like them.
Yeah, they're fun. So the silicone, like this will last an eternity. Like we'll all be like retired by the time like this goes away. So I bought like a 2-pack on Amazon. I bought one with a lid because I think sometimes too when you go to put them in the freezer, you're like kind of scared of them being like topsy turvy. So I bought one with a lid. The base to the mocktail is always ginger. When I make a ginger fizz, or what I call it kombucha and bubbly, because the ginger is, I think a lot of times, do you guys, when's the last time you had a Moscow Mule?
I've never had
Oh,
one.
I've never had
Oh
one.
my gosh. Okay, so Moscow Mule is a great NA drink to order if you go out to a restaurant, just like Sam's vodka, or there's also kind of a version like with gin. So it's usually like ginger beer and a little bit of club soda and like lime, and then some kind of clear liquor. So ginger a lot of times reminds us of a traditional cocktail. So we're gonna put our gingerade in. I should have done this before, but I'm also going to add a splash of maple syrup. Again, because we kind of have that, like, it mimics like a traditional cocktail sometimes when things are a little bit sweeter. So this might be one like I would have like later in the evening. Kind of think about if you've ever done like gone to a winery and they do like driest to sweetest. So I can think about that at home too. So maybe I'll like affect your palate. So I'm just going to add like a splash. I don't know. That's maybe like half a teaspoon. We'll give it a stir. This is optional. I normally make my mocktails like I don't add a ton of sugar to them because there's so much sneaky sugar and so many things that we eat and drink most of the time. This is a peach kombucha. So give it a smell.
Oh, that smells good.
Yeah, it smells like a real peach. So that's what I like about this brand is they do have pretty clean, straightforward ingredients. In the wintertime, I will make this with like pomegranate for some kind of like Christmas vibes. Good. You can put some little pomegranate seeds in there. So this is kind of like my other half. The ginger is just kind of your backbone. If you think about it, like when you use spices in baking, you're not usually like, oh, that's clove, oh, that's cinnamon. Like they just provide kind of like a nice warm background, and ginger is one of those warm spices. So that's why it's a good background. Next, I'm gonna have y'all beat up your rosemary. So whack it on the counter harder, like you're like mad at it, like your husband just said something that you didn't like. You know, yeah, breaking it's fine. So
that smells good.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Do you guys know why we beat them up?
It releases the smell, right?
Releases the oils that are naturally occurring. So
good.
I almost think a lot of times, like in cocktails and mocktails, I use herbs as an aromatic effect, not always just necessarily like a flavor bomb, so that the experience is a little bit more layered rather than just, oh, I'm getting a sweet something. Like you're getting the smell and you're getting the flavor, and we're getting some fizz with our kombucha. Kombucha is also a fermented beverage, which a lot of times that's not something we usually drink like all day, every day, right? Like I think, Sarah, you mentioned you're like a big water drinker. So you're not going to get that like fermented fizzy.
Right.
The next party trick that I have is called flaming an orange. So we're going to get an orange peel here. All right, I'm going to give you a close-up of how to flame this orange. So we have just an orange peel that I just peeled off. And what we're going to do is take our lighter and we're going to take our orange and give it a little spritz. And what this does is it wakes up the naturally occurring oils in the orange peel. All right, so we flamed April's orange peel. So we're going to put it in. So that's another kind of aromatic effect. And as you drink the drink, the oils will kind of release over time. So that's for you. We're going to flame Sarah's orange here. Just a little citrus oils really come alive like when they get warmed up. So probably should have done that with yours, but we'll swirl it around a little bit. Wouldn't help to give it one more stir. When you're using things like maple syrup and honey and things like that in cold drinks, they're viscous, so they take a little bit to dissolve. So when you do it at home, put a little bit of liquid in, put your maple syrup or your honey in, stir it around, get it dissolved in that smaller amount of water. And then so here we go. There's your mocktail. It's your Kombucha Bubbly. Cheers. Tell me what you smell, April.
I definitely smell the orange. And that one almost like is in front of the rosemary, but I can still smell the rosemary.
Okay.
Yeah. They're blended together. Ooh. It's really nice.
So rosemary and citrus are just like they're match made in heaven.
Sure. And if it makes sense, I can smell the fizz.
Ooh.
Okay.
So you can, or like
something. I'm not sure.
Well, that's kind of like, if you like crack open a beer or something like that, like that the bubbles are actually like they're effervescing, like they are kind of burning off like into the air. So Sarah, can you tell me what you taste?
Everything. No, it's really good. It's the ginger, and then it comes through with the orange as well. Like that first sip there.
How's the peach sitting? Does it taste peachy?
I don't taste the peach as much.
Okay, a little subtle. So that's a good tip. Like with the ginger, it can be strong and powerful. So I'm gonna top you guys off with a little bit more. And if I think about, I actually have more ginger in there. You can see like I have more ginger than peach. So I'm going to top you guys off. And I know y'all have kids and stuff in school. So hopefully you all aren't germy, but I'm going to make sure we're going to share a spoon.
Nobody's sick in my house.
Not mine either.
And tell me if you can taste the peach a little bit. So usually, actually, the ratio to ginger, I probably should have, it's like about a third ginger and then like 2/3 of the peach.
I definitely taste it more
peach
now.
ringing in
Oh,
a little
yeah.
bit. So that's kind of a way you can also like drive home a theme to a party or an event.
Yeah.
So, you know, if it's winter, we're doing pomegranate. If it's, you know, maybe early spring, there is a wonderful like blueberry one of these. So we have like fresher, springier flavors. Peaches, kind of a summer flavor. So those are definitely some things you can kind of do to adjust it to your season. And we'll do a close up, but there's that really pretty pink ice cube in the drink there. So just to wrap up, we have a dyed ice cube, which is super easy, totally optional. You just use ice out of your freezer or whatever. 2 kinds of kombucha, really kind of layers the flavor. We've got an orange with a flamed orange peel. We can use the orange in other mocktails later on. And we've got some maple syrup, which is definitely like optional. So is that something you think you could like pull together on a weeknight?
Absolutely.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. What do you usually drink at night to kind of help you calm down? I think for a lot of people, they reach for a warm tea, but I have a fun mocktail that I can show you that might add a little spice to your evening. I've got a stemless wine glass. I like it because it's big and it's clear. I have some fresh basil. This is totally optional. I have a Tart cherry juice. And then I have some Waterloo, which is flavored naturally. I have 2 kinds. You could use a cherry limeade, or there's a black cherry. Or if you don't have either of those on hand, you could just use club soda. I have some fun optional add-ins. Like if I were to make this maybe a little bit more springy, summery, I might add a little bit of lime essential oil or a fresh lime. Those are definitely optional. So let's build it. We have ice. I'm going to whack my basil on the counter. Always whack your herbs. It wakes up the oils, and then you're going to be missing out if you don't. So I'm going to stick this fella in here. That easy. And I might even like get this ice cubes on top to kind of help weigh it down. And basil is going to season. It easily releases its oils when bruised because it's a little bit more fibrous than say something like thyme or rosemary. But it's also going to provide an aromatic effect for us. Basil is such a strong odor. And it has anise flavors like star anise, the baking spice, if you've seen that. And that warm spice, I think, kind of hangs out nicely with a cherry flavor. Why I think something like a warm spice goes nice with a cherry flavor is because it kind of reminds me a little bit of like baked goods, kind of like cherry pie. You probably would put some cinnamon in there. So I got basil, ice. I'm going to pour my Tart cherry juice in. So Tart cherry juice actually has melatonin in it, and it can make the melatonin naturally occurring in your system more available for your system to use. So I normally make my mocktails on the lower sugar side. This does have 26 grams if you drink 8 ounces of it. So this might be like a 1 or a 2 kind of thing, because we want to be mindful about spiking our blood sugar later in the evening before we go to bed. If you get that like 3 a.m. wake up, it might be because your blood sugar isn't balanced. So I've got that. I'm going to add, today I'm going to go with black cherry because I kind of want to double down on those like warm, wintry kind of spice notes. And I think it's interesting, you know, a lot of times we think of basil as like a very summery herb, goes with tomatoes for sure. But when we pair it with things that bring out different elements in it, so I mentioned the star anise flavor in it. If I pair it with something that normally would have that warm spice with it, it's going to go there. So that is the cool thing about herbs and spices. They will kind of go wherever you let them go. So this is our beautiful drink. We have our basils kind of smooshed up against the side of the glass. That is absolutely delicious. That, without adding any other sugar, reminds me of like a cherry bottled soda that you would get, you know, kind of like a fancier, maybe like a local craft made soda or something like that. Sorry, I had to drink some more. I think that's a winner. The basil is definitely optional. I chose basil because it's readily available at most grocery stores, but you could definitely just do a cherry flavored sparkling water and cherry juice, or a club soda and some cherry juice. And you want to make it a little bit lighter, a little bit fresher, add in some citrus. That's always a way to kind of make things fresher and lighter, is by adding in a little bit of citrus. So that to me is a winner. Oh, yeah. When we think about foods that make us feel warm and fuzzy, what are some of the common occurring ingredients in them? It's the warm spices. It's things like cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves. So, in my fall nights mocktail, we are going to mirror that sort of effect, but in drink form and with a lot less sugar. I'm going to show you my ingredients as I build the mocktail. So, I started with a fun little glass. So, unlike some of my other mocktails that have like a larger volume of liquid, this is going to be a little bit more of a sipping drink. So, these are some vintage glasses from my in laws. Have a cute little like wine scape on them. They might not be something that I would go out and buy, but it's a fun way to give a little nod to my in laws and to kind of remember them fondly. So I'm going to use their glasses tonight. I'm going to start with a Tangelo that I have scored the peel with my sharp knife. And in addition to the juice, that helps release the naturally occurring sweet-ish oils that are in my orange peel or Tangelo. Tangelos, I think, have a little bit more flavor than a traditional navel orange. So I'm going to squeeze her out. That produced about a tablespoon of juice. You could buy, or if you have a juicer or something like that, like you could make your juice up ahead of time. My next ingredient that I'm going to work with is a Seedlip NA Spirit. So Seedlip is just the brand, and they come in 3 flavors. This one is allspice, cardamom, citrus notes, a little bit of a bitter finish from oak. And what I like about this is it has those warm spices, it has no calories, and is distilled like in copper stills, the way that like bourbon or something might be. But it's non-alcoholic, and it just adds tons of flavors. If I put a bunch of cinnamon and nutmeg and sprinkled that in my drink here, that would make for a really weird texture. So by enjoying a distilled spirit, they've put all those flavors, combined them in this bottle for us to make it really easy to use. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of this. Oh, a little bit more than a tablespoon, but that's the fun thing about mocktails. You can adjust them to your flavor profile, your tastes. So my next product is an elderberry elixir. This is a local product for me. The women farmers are actually some good friends of mine, and this has elderberry juice, honey, lemon juice, ginger, cinnamon, and cloves. An elderberry elixir can help boost your immune system. This is like a go-to. I don't start my cool weather season without this because I need all the help I can get. I have seasonal allergies. We all do, really. So while this is kind of made to be a health tonic, it is, and I think that's a fun thing that we can add to mocktails, is really a way to help boost our immune system. Or maybe if you are working with a recess as a canned drink that has adaptogens in it. So our mocktails are a way that we can kind of make a health drink for us instead of maybe a sweet, something carby or something that would like highly spike our blood sugar. So this is a way to kind of get that sweet, warm and fuzzy feeling kind of headed into the evening or when you're having company without eating a bunch of sugar. So this is only 3 grams of sugar for a tablespoon, hardly anything. So I'm going to pour about a tablespoon into that. I'm going to add, this has lemon juice in it. I'm going to add just the tiniest kiss of lemon to kind of help balance everything out. Our palate really likes acid. So by adding just a touch, it can kind of round out and kind of bring up those other flavors. And then I'm going to just stick, this is kind of a small glass, a couple of ice cubes in here. Give it a nice little stir. And when I served this drink to a couple of my friends who are moms a couple of weeks ago, they said it reminded them of like the bottle of Welch's that somebody would have on the table at Thanksgiving for kids, but in a more elevated scents and with more layers of flavor. So let's give it a try. Oh, it definitely has those holiday vibes. It reminds me a little bit of like the cranberry juice almost. What is probably doing that is like the elderberry and some of the drier flavors that come through in the Seedlip. And this is definitely something that I could see on a holiday table or as an evening kind of sip. Like, I don't know, this makes you want to put on like a pretty evening dress and hang out. But I think headed into fall, instead of reaching for the pumpkin spice something or the cookies or the sweets, heading into the cooler weather months, so many of us are inundated by just sweets and junk food everywhere we go. So this is kind of a way to nod to some of those flavors without adding a ton of sugar to your routine.